Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started. Welcome to our April Lunch and Learn. I'm Amanda with the Nevada Housing Coalition. And as always, I have just a couple of announcements before we kick off the session. Um, Hopefully, you've all been seeing, we are starting to make announcements for our upcoming 2026 Nevada Housing Conference, Beyond the Blueprint. This is going to be taking place on September 23rd and 24th at the Atlantis Casino Resort Spa in Reno. For those of you who are interested in potentially speaking at our conference, we have a call for proposals open. We are looking for plenary ideas, breakout ideas, and anything you might have for a panel, roundtable, or workshop style session. I will share the link in the chat shortly, but please note that the final date to submit a proposal is going to be Sunday, May 3rd. We are going to be launching next Friday, May 1st, the nominations for our Affordable Housing Champion Awards. If you attended our conference last year, we had an award ceremony during lunch, and we will be doing the same thing again this year. Very excited. We have a couple new categories that we're going to be presenting this year. And just to note that only members of the Nevada Housing Coalition are going to be able to nominate someone, but anyone who works in affordable housing across Nevada is eligible to be nominated. So if you are a member and you are hoping to nominate someone this year, keep an eye on your emails on Friday, May 1st. And then lastly, we are going to be launching conference registration, early bird registration prices on Monday, May 4th. So lots of things coming up. Please keep an eye on your emails. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. And now I'm going to hand it off to Maurice Page, our Executive Director.
All right. Good afternoon. Thank you, Amanda. I just want to keep this very short and brief, but I want to start off by saying and offering a sincere thank you to CSH and KPS3 for being here today, for the leadership you've shown in bringing this supportive housing development toolkit to life and into the hands of our community. This has been a very long time in the making, and it reflects a shared commitment to not just talk about solutions, but to build them in a way that is practicable and actionable. So again, very huge thank you to, especially to Kristen from CSH, the project manager. I don't know if she's on the call or in the audience, but you was the true anchor of this effort, keeping the moving forward, helping navigate a lot of the complexities of the project, and ensuring that we produce not only a thoughtful but usable development tool for our partners across Nevada. Your leadership made a difference, and we appreciate all of your hard work that you put into this. And then finally, with the passage of AB Assembly Bill 310, which was signed by the governor in 2023, which created the the Nevada Supportive Housing Development Fund, we now have a real opportunity in front of us. This toolkit is the critical next step, helping translate policy into practice and equipping communities with the tools that they need to move the projects forward. So, with that being said, we have a very special lunch and learn. We have Joselyn and Juawana here that will help you and guide you through the toolkit, help you have a better understanding. And I just want to say again, just thank you for all of the hard work that you guys committed to this project. And with that, I will turn it over to Joselyn and I will be quiet. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Maurice, for that warm welcome. Hello, everybody. Give me just a second while I get my screen in presenter mode for you all. And then I'm going to test the audience just to make sure you guys can see or make sure that I'm in presenter mode. Can you guys, everybody see my screen? Perfect. So, oops, hold on one second. Let me jump into the one that I need. Okay, there we go. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So welcome everybody. My name is Joselyn Wilkinson. I'm a program manager on the Southwest team. And it's a pleasure to be with you all today. Juawana is going to jump into the supportive housing toolkit. I'm here to really frame us in the work that CSH is doing. And give me just a second, guys. My it keeps jumping out. One second, just having just a bit of technical difficulties. There we go. Beautiful. So what I will do is be telling you guys who CSH is, who we are, what we do, and how we integrate ourselves into community and how we engage with community. So before I talk about what CSH does, I want to tell you how we think about the work, what our mission is to advance affordable housing aligned with services as an approach that helps people thrive. Three of those parts matter. The affordable housing piece, the aligned with services piece, and the word thrive. So not stabilize and move on, but actually thrive. The way we do that is in three ways. We advocate for effective policies and funding. We invest in communities, and we strengthen the supportive housing field itself. And that last piece is really important because the field is only as strong as the people that are on this call. So CSH exists to help you guys make stronger communities. Before we get into what we want to share, we want to talk about our values. And so we'll just touch on a few of them. Courageous independence. We rely on each other. No one solves homelessness alone. And CSH is very clear that we are not the heroes of this story, but we are partners in the story. So principled risk-taking is another one of our values, and that status quo has not solved this. So we take a disciplined risk to create lasting change. We try things, we measure them, and then we figure out what works, and we help communities scale those out. Authenticity. We are transparent about who we are, how we act, and what we do. That includes being honest when something isn't working. And then opportunity for all. We are centered in fairness and kindness. That is the center of our work. It is not the edges of it. It is how we operate and move in it. And joy. And this one may surprise people, but we definitely pursue joy to transform communities. And we think it's important that the people that we serve see us existing in joy and that we take joy in helping their situations. So what do we actually do? We work with communities in three ways to help them move away from crisis response, to make better use of public resources and ensure everyone has a safe place to call home. And three of those ways that we do that is policy and advocacy. We engage in federal, state, and local governments on policies and funding to determine whether supportive housing can actually be built and work in your communities. And Juawana will touch more on how some of those policies with state governments have worked in Nevada. Technical assistance and training and consulting. This is where we show up alongside you guys. We run supportive housing institutes. We consult on project design. We publish frameworks and tools. We train in the workforce field. And if you are building something new or trying something to strengthen what already exists, CSH can meet you where you are. Loans and new market tax credit investments. CSH is a CDFI, which means we put real capital into the field. We do pre-development loans, acquisition loans, project initiation financing, tax credit investments that help developers get buildings off the ground. And we've been doing that since 1991. We've distributed over 1.5 billion in loans and grants, and we've helped create more than 467,000 supportive housing units. So these are the three areas that are our powerhouse areas, and we do all three of these because we know that that's what works. So the next data points that we're going to talk about We're going to talk about what supportive housing is and how it works, and how we have 30 years of proof that that is the case. Supportive housing is not a, so we're going to get into what supportive housing is, right? So supportive housing is not affordable housing with services attached. It is a specific intervention, and the difference matters. At the center is a home, affordable, accessible, permanent, and the person's own. Around that home is a set of services that the tenant can actually use: case management, employment, help with parenting and life skills, mental health, substance use treatment, all of it flexible, all of it voluntary, and all of it is built around the tenant, not around the program. What separates quality supportive housing from everything else comes down to a couple of things. Obviously, the housing first principles and staff ratios, 1 to 10 or 1 to 15. So you're not typically dealing with your 1 to 60 or 1 to 40 per case manager. And that ratio, it matters. It's the difference between a case manager who knows someone's life or who knows someone's file. Supportive housing is federally recognized as an evidence-based practice. That is not marketing language, that is a SAMHSA definition. So when communities get the model right, it really, really delivers. And CSH exists to help those communities get it right. Supportive housing is designed for people who face the most complex barriers to housing stability. So specifically for people who are experiencing homelessness, who are cycling through institutional and emergency systems and are at risk for long-term homelessness, are living with intellectual or developmental disabilities, are living with chronic health conditions, are being discharged from institutions and systems of care, and critically, people who cannot access or make effective use of treatment and supportive housing services without housing first. So the last point is the one I want to underline for some of those, for some of the people who we serve. You cannot treat the mental illness, manage the chronic condition, or sustain the recovery until housing is in place. So housing is not the reward for doing the work. Housing is what makes that work possible. And this is why supportive housing is so important. So I will close with the evidence. 80% of supportive housing tenants keep their housing for 1 year or more. For a population that has often cycled through homelessness for years, that number is remarkable. For two more findings worth noting is when people are housed, their use of the most costly and restrictive services go down. So that's fewer ER visits, fewer shelter nights, fewer hospital days. In some cities, the savings nearly pay for the housing itself. And the one that surprises people the most is tenants choose to participate in the services, even when it's not required. When you stop making people earn their home, they engage more, not less. So we know supportive housing works. We have 30 years of research that says so. And CSH also understands that we cannot do this work without you, the developers, the service providers, the property managers, the public agencies, and the people, and most importantly, the people with lived experience. You are our ecosystem, and we understand that we must partner with you if we want to end homelessness. So now I'm going to turn it over to Juawana, who is going to walk us through the toolkit and further share why this is a tool that works for the community. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. Can you show the next slide? Perfect. Yes. before we got into the toolkit, I really wanted to share a lot of the history of the work that got us to this moment where we now have this beautiful toolkit, this kind of online dedicated resource for all things Nevada supportive housing, and get into a little bit around the background and why this is crucial now more than ever. We have made a lot of momentum in Nevada on supportive housing. Even before 2019, we've been working towards Medicaid in lieu of services, Medicaid expansion. Folks have been on the ground doing this work for a long time, and we've gained a lot of traction with policy initiatives and capacity building, particularly in these last several years. Part of which is the Nevada Housing Coalition becoming getting established in 2019 and organizing some statewide advocacy around housing policy, really driving a lot of this work forward with the Home Means in Nevada initiative, some of which was dedicated to permanent supportive housing, the Elevate Nevada statewide capacity building initiative, which supported permanent supportive housing. One back. Oh, the slides are going ahead. Can you go back? Thank you.
Yeah, give me just a second. Sorry.
That's okay.
It keeps jumping out. I'm so sorry, guys. Having technical difficulties earlier too.
Okay. The Elevate Nevada statewide capacity building initiative, which part of which focused on building understanding and shared perspective and technical expertise on supportive housing and how to build it. And then of course, AB 310 came right after that pivotal historic bill that dedicated $32 million for a pilot program in Nevada, a pool of resources dedicated to supportive housing and permanently putting the supportive housing definition into legislation for the first time in Nevada. And that was in 2023. Then Reno and Washoe County did their regional needs assessment to confirm that our inventory gaps for those living below 30% area median income and for PSH. And that was a pivotal moment in really understanding the need, who we're serving, what populations. And then, of course, in 2025, Assembly Bill 366 passed and made the Nevada Supportive Housing Development Fund a permanent account with the Nevada Housing Division. They've had 2 rounds of funding released so far. There's been some great ribbon cuttings of some purpose-built supportive housing buildings in both northern and southern Nevada. We have a lot of momentum. We've made a lot of progress, and we need to keep our foot on the gas, right? So that we can push through the current federal climate and really continue the success and really build on what we've been doing. And to do that, the Nevada Housing Coalition has created this Nevada Online Supportive Housing Toolkit so that we can all align around the resources. And I am going to walk through it so you all know how you can use it for each of you in doing your individual work in the field. And I'll share my screen now, Joselyn.
Okay.
Thank you so much. All right. There we go. All right. So I'm really excited to go over these with you. This brand new one of its kind in Nevada, one of its kind in Nevada Supportive Housing Resource Toolkit, designed for a broad audience, united in the shared goal of tackling Nevada's housing crisis. Today, we're going to go through the toolkit at a high level. I'll share some of the key information highlighted, as well as kind of a how-to prepare you to leverage this resource in your day-to-day roles, whatever they may be. So we know that the Nevada's housing crisis is not diminishing at the speed we need to ensure all Nevadans have the homes they need. And this toolkit comes at a critical point in the housing landscape where we have made some tremendous progress, like I just mentioned, over these past several years with the success of all these policy initiatives, these new fundings, and even most recently, the Attainable Housing Fund. Historic investments at the state level to really drive and solve for the housing crisis. And at the same time, there's federal priorities that have been shifting in a way that really threatens to stall that progress and move resources away from some of the evidence-based interventions like supportive housing. So we need resources like the Nevada Supportive Housing Toolkit now more than ever to build on that shared language, build on those collective efforts, and advocate together for continued investment in strategies and solutions that work for Nevada. The research for this living document, like Maurice mentioned, started as a Nevada supportive housing strategy, and it evolved into this practical toolkit and was largely led by the research and writing of the CSH's Southwest teams, Kristen Calla. And I'd also like to acknowledge the hard work of Kristen, Jessica, and Jesse Dean on our communications team, and Brooke Page, who did a lot of the work that came before you that you saw. She's our Western Region Managing Director. So the CSH has really been involved in Nevada in this for a long time, and seeing this culmination of this dedicated resource on the Nevada Housing Coalition's website is really a moment for celebration for all of us as well. From CSH as well, thank you so much to the Nevada Housing Coalition for inviting us to partner on this vision and their co-creation on the Nevada-specific content we included. So it's my hope that this will be very helpful as a dedicated central hub for information, offering actionable insights for housing advocates, policymakers, healthcare providers, and nonprofit organizations, developers, and community leaders, all committed to tackling the state's severe shortage of affordable and supportive housing. The toolkit is designed to be used by topic, so each section here stands on its own and can provide you with targeted and contextual information based on your role or need or what you're looking for. So you don't necessarily have to read this cover to cover to make good use. You might start by reading the overview of what is supportive housing section here, and then jump to section 4 on the economic and health benefits if you're looking specifically for talking points on community-wide outcomes that supportive housing has been shown to provide. Because of this design, you'll see that a lot of case studies or data is repeated throughout, because there's a lot of overlapping context with each of these individual talking points that we've pulled out by section. And the work of supportive housing is complex and interwoven. So you'll see that there's some repeated information, and you'll be able to see through the lens of these different sections and contexts how that lands, depending on what your role is or what you're interested in, or how that impacts the work you're doing. So maybe you're experienced in supportive housing, and you've hired new staff and you want them to learn specifically on the legislative policy efforts. Or maybe you want to add this cover to cover, have them read it all the way through as an assignment for their onboarding plan because they're new to supportive housing and you're working in the field. But repetition is how we learn. So it's good to have those data points, and it's good to have those case studies, and it's really great to see them and how they align and pull out different contexts. So let's get started here. The first stop is introduction section. In this section, you'll get a broad introduction to supportive housing, including an overview of Nevada's housing crisis, its impact on homelessness, the purpose of supportive housing in this context, including economic and social barriers and development barriers. Here you can pull these quick data points, such as Nevada's inventory gap, here how we consistently have the worst affordable housing inventory gaps in the US, particularly for extremely low-income renters, with only 16 affordable and available units for every 100 extremely low-income households. This leaves about 86% of renters severely cost burdened, spending more than half of their income on their housing. You'll also learn what this housing shortage means in the context of homelessness. So as homelessness is rising over these last 4 years, you can directly see that connection between the intersection of a low inventory and the rising rates of homelessness here. So there's a mismatch between the need and capacity. So while over 10,000 people experienced unsheltered homelessness in 2024, the state had only 2,744 year-round permanent supportive housing beds. So really highlighting in this section a critical system shortfall. You can also learn here about the economic barriers to housing. So you can see here an hourly wage of $32.94 per hour is what it will take to afford a 2-bedroom apartment at a fair market rent in Nevada. That's well above wages for many of our most common occupations here, often in the service industry, office workers, and manufacturing. And the final part is the introduction to the purpose and the benefits of supportive housing. So you'll see how supportive housing's role in the intersection of all these data points and its potential for impact. And then in the later sections, you dive deeper into the research, into the data, case studies, and specific models. So that is the introduction. The next section, what is supportive housing? We won't spend too much time here because Joselyn just gave us that great overview in her introduction, but you can come back anytime and refresh your memory on the core principles of supportive housing. Some things to remember, these quality standards, these are the core principles of supportive housing. This is what makes it work. This is what it takes to do the project to fidelity. And then you can see here very quickly the three components of supportive housing: housing, supportive services, ongoing tenancy support, including mission-driven property management, wherein the entire housing team, not just the service providers, are committed to keeping tenants housed. That's a very key part and unique distinction for supportive housing. We're there to keep folks that are hard to house in the housing, and the whole team who works in the building is there to support them as well. You can also learn about the different types of supportive housing, single site models, advantages and challenges, scattered site models, advantages and challenges. And you have a lot of great talking points here, exploring maybe if you're a developer, maybe you're a nonprofit, you're interested in expanding your mission to build supportive housing. Here's where you can learn different ways to do it and kind of gather the information you need to select the appropriate model. I would like to draw your attention at the bottom of this page, because who benefits from supportive housing, the populations that it serves, is really key to leveraging this evidence-based intervention to address the homelessness crisis. That is very important. Chronic homelessness is a persistent issue across Nevada. Individuals often cycle through emergency shelters and hospitals and justice systems. As you can see, connected to the low inventory, often even if folks are getting into the system, there's not enough housing for them to get out of the system permanently. That's where permanent supportive housing comes in, particularly for folks. They have this great graphic here, the Housing Coalition, of all the demographics that are impacted by the housing crisis. And you can see right here in the middle, chronic homelessness, folks that have long-term or repeated episodes of homelessness are right here in the center. And that is really the niche that supportive housing is here to serve. We have more inventory for families with children, veterans, and older adults with seniors. Of course, there is a need all across the spectrum in Nevada because we have such a low inventory rate. Supportive housing kind of sits because we have less inventory for these folks. And these are the folks that need those wraparound services often to stay housed. Those are the folks that are housed the hardest to house. And a strong understanding of the populations with the greatest need for this type of intervention is paramount to moving the needle on homelessness. Supportive housing provides an essential lifeline for individuals and families with all kinds of complex needs, offering both stability and an opportunity to rebuild their lives. But also, supportive housing is specifically designed to serve populations least served by traditional housing models. So individuals and in families experiencing chronic homelessness, individuals with disabilities, behavioral health needs, and long-term system involvement. Often this means identifying folks who, without this intervention, are the least likely to exit homelessness on their own. Just going to take a drink here. Awesome. So Nevada's supportive housing landscape, section 3. This is where we start really diving deeper into the affordable housing landscape overall. By leveraging this section, you can dive deeper into the problem, you can understand the gaps more, you can learn about Nevada's progress and the solutions already underway, some of which we just went over in that slide. Here you're gonna get a detailed narrative on Nevada's need. You'll see some of those statistics again that we already talked about that identify housing instability and homelessness in Nevada rising faster, the inventory gaps that kind of exacerbate the problems. And you'll also get some call outs for really specific parts of Nevada's landscape that are unique and deserve their own attention, like the rural community, and information on the distribution of supportive housing here, which remains mostly concentrated in Clark and Washoe counties, and there's limited options still in rural and frontier counties. This page also dives deeper into the system gaps that impact scalable solutions. So you'll see a lot, you'll really kind of learn in deep about that here. And then you'll also learn about the solutions, which we just talked about. So it's not all problems and barriers. You're introduced in this page to the amazing, amazing progress Nevada has made by investing in policy solutions like the Supportive Housing Development Fund and expanding Medicaid with in lieu of services. And then a recap here of the key demographics impacted, just in case you decided to skip over these ones, because as I mentioned, the key demographics and population served are a crucial part of doing this intervention in a strategic way. Next up, section 4, economic and health benefits. So now we really get to the good stuff, the why. Why do we care so much about supportive housing? Because it works. Here you can dive into a plethora of evidence on supportive housing. If your presentation is to legislators or any kind of non-social worky types, they might want to know how supportive housing benefits the greater community, public spending, versus the positive impacts on supportive housing tenants like better health incomes, lower recidivism rates, and folks coming out of the justice system. They might really be interested in that macro level. How do we build better communities? How does supportive housing fit into our greater economic health in Nevada? And here's where you're going to find that information. Cost avoidance. You'll see some quick talking points here that you can just pull right out and hand those over to your investors, hand those over to legislators, hand those over to your boss because you want to start building supportive housing, to funders because you want to make a case and you're writing a grant. So really showing the need, then you're going to show why this solution works. Return on investment. There's some case studies here that saw a 40% reduction in jail stays and a 30% reduction in police contacts for tenants of supportive housing, which resulted in substantial public cost savings because all of those interventions cost money. So we're really avoiding the cost of the emergency response systems by getting folks stable faster and for longer. You're going to find that here. And then you're going to find information on better public health outcomes with lower public costs. You know, coming out of a pandemic, I think we learned a lot about what public health means and what it means to be in a society and in a community together. And supportive housing also has a positive impact on our public health as well. So overall, this is where you're going to find the results, the data. This is where you're going to find the case studies that you want to turn to and pull those talking points, share with your new staff, learn about programs and different approaches that other communities have been successful in and trying to replicate those in your own communities where that aligns as well. You also can learn here the Medicaid integration into housing services. That's specifically that healthcare and housing intersection. There's some deep dives into the healthcare and housing intersection here in the economic and health benefits section. It's all here, data to back it up. Right here, there's some case studies, learning about other communities. If you're really into data, this is where you're going to find examples from other communities. This is where you're going to find research illustrating how supportive housing works in practice. These data points are tools for funders, policymakers, advocates. You can dive deeper into any of these examples because they're all cited at the end in the reference section, which we'll take a look at as well. Section 5, resources and funding opportunities. This is going to be great for developing a better understanding of the how do we do this. This is where the funding and development resources are available to build and operate supportive housing in Nevada. As many of you know, it takes significant investment and coordination to scale a supportive housing and affordable housing pipeline, and a large share of the funding resources available are with our government partners at the federal, state, and local levels. Public-private partnerships, nonprofits, faith-based landowners. It takes a whole village. It takes a community to do this work, and we have to bring our resources together. So this is where you can get a really strong overview of the standard, tried and true resources that are used by many communities to build and operate supportive housing. So you start with the federal opportunities here. These are development resources. You have the state level funding opportunities. You're going to see this Nevada Supportive Housing Development Account referenced many times. It's our shining star here in Nevada. Medicaid programs again. You have our local community initiatives. Unique to Clark County, we have the Community Housing Fund that has funded supportive housing projects in the past. We have our Continuum of Care, COC partners, and a lot of HUD resources. services. And then you have special mention for faith-based and nonprofit collaborators who often bring their own resources to the table: service provision, development expertise, technical expertise, land often, and being a part of the community and wanting to invest in solutions that work. So that is really important here. I think one really timely and great part to pull out of this section, these are operating subsidies here, is the call out on the Medicaid's role in supportive housing. So Medicaid expansion is rolling out right now in Nevada with In Lieu of Services. It plays a pivotal role in funding services that enable vulnerable individuals to access and maintain supportive housing. A lot of the work that you saw in the very beginning of my presentation has really led up to this moment, really trying to create an on-ramp so that we can also really drive the pipeline forward in preparation for this Medicaid in lieu of services. So there's a long throughput line here that you're seeing in real time that's culminating with this online information hub. It's really great to see. By leveraging Medicaid resources, states can really bridge critical gaps between housing instability and healthcare and address these intersecting challenges for health inequality, homelessness, and resource limitations. So it's a very crucial piece, and I really applaud the Housing Coalition for making sure that we highlight that in here. If you're interested in learning more about the Medicaid, this is your section. This is where the most of the information about this development is here. So you're going to want to read that if that's what you're interested in. Section 6, building capacity. This section shares a few examples of common barriers that communities experience when they're trying to maximize the outcome potential for supportive housing. So this includes strategies for cross-sector coordination, common hiccups and operating barriers when serving vulnerable populations, best practices for targeting populations with significant barriers to access. And if you love case studies like I do, you're going to find more case studies here as well. Here, you can point to examples of success from other communities to design your own programs, advocate for systems level change, so those quality standards, so that we all are uplifting the capacity to do this intervention well. We're coordinating across sector on these quality standards and all these strategies so that we're really driving them forward as a community. You can also point to the data from communities who have had some success in this way by reading through these and then reading through these case studies at the end. So, for example, maybe you're a developer, you want to expand your mission to serve individuals coming out of the criminal justice system, but you're getting some pushback from your property management partners on implementing low barrier tenant screening policies. You might come here and you might say, oh, pull some talking points from here to create a beautiful PowerPoint presentation for your property management partners and educate them that tenant screening processes are critical in ensuring stable housing, but often there's a myth that stringent background checks actually identify strong partners. So, background checks actually identify strong renters, which we know from data is not true. So if they're inaccurate, outdated information in criminal history backgrounds, they're not strong indicators of successful tenancy. That's what studies have consistently shown. So, and what supportive housing has shown is that programs supporting folks with just as involved backgrounds, criminal justice barriers, they face significant barriers to housing, but they can be good tenants and they respond and they're successful in supportive housing. So you can show your property management partners, if you're a developer and they have some concerns with housing a population who has some criminal background history, the research has shown that individuals with conventional records can be successful tenants when connected to supportive services. It's important to couple inclusive tenant screening practices with housing first initiatives to foster stability and community well-being. Then you can pull the Returning Home in Ohio programs data. This is a program that exists that has successfully provided supportive housing for folks with coming out of long-term prison sentences, and this program in particular has shown to reduce recidivism rates by a very significant amount, 9% recidivism rates for folks participating in the program, which is much, much, much lower than other populations that don't receive supportive housing. So there is really this long throughput in this toolkit of individual benefits to supportive housing, community benefits, cost benefits, but then also other community benefits like reducing recidivism, and how supportive housing can be connected to all these cross-sector systems, and how if we work together, centering supportive housing for the populations we're serving, we can have really positive community outcomes. Next up, legislative and policy efforts in Nevada. So this, we go back to the importance of policy in this work. So this section's for all you legislative lovers out there. We know that policy is a powerful tool for affordable and supportive housing. And in fact, we wouldn't have most of our development resources for supportive housing without legislation and policy. So this section details an overview of the most recent legislative efforts that impact supportive housing right now. If you're new to the field, this will be a great intro to one of the most important drivers of our work in this field, which is legislation. So we have the two bills I mentioned before, AB 310, AB 366, Continuum of Care. That's a federal legislation that created these opportunities. Drivers of supportive housing and homeless services. Nevada's Medicaid in lieu of services is also a policy decision. So great information here. So you can see how things are overlapping, but it's because they're from a different perspective. So each section or topic overlaps, and that's because all these different angles overlap in real life. So funding sources are often created by policy. We saw the funding sources in the funding section. Now we're seeing them from the policy perspective, so you can learn how those kinds of solutions get made and get driven. So you'll get that first, you'll get this brief summary of existing legislation, then a deeper dive into the two most recent support legislation initiatives that support supportive housing, and that's the development account and Medicaid's in lieu of services. So you can do a little deeper dive over there and learn more about those two most recent ones. Next up is community impact and success metrics. So this is almost there, folks. Very exciting stuff. I know I'm talking so much. I feel like I'm just talking and talking. I also can't see you because I'm presenting. So before we get to the summary section, we'll take a final look at success metrics for supportive housing. So this is another look on the broad impact of supportive housing, this time highlighting the intersection between the impact on individuals and how that impact has a ripple effect on the systems and communities, which I talked a little bit about just now. So this piece is how it fosters better health outcomes because it provides a safe environment, necessary access to physical and behavioral health care services, wraparound services. So this is a little bit about how it works and the benefits at the same time. By providing individuals a physical space to live with dignity and purpose, supportive housing reduces reliance on costly public systems, this reinforces the section we saw earlier that gave us all the data to back up those claims. If you're in a pinch, you can just send this section to your legislators, and then you'll just tell them to send to their colleagues who are interested in collaborating on housing bills next legislative session. This is nobody has time to read. There's a lot of bills that go into the legislative section. I think this is a great comprehensive and tight summary of why supportive housing deserves the attention. Next, for all of you supportive housing providers, the role of data in evaluating program effectiveness will also be found in this section. So if you're interested in learning more about how to measure the success of your programs, how to ensure your programs are doing what you want them to do, you can learn, there's an overview here on the role of data and how evaluating program effectiveness is very crucial, not only for the tenants, which is the whole reason we do this, but also this is also how we demonstrate its impact on the greater community as well. So the subsection on data could be very illuminating for housing providers who are looking to tell the story of their supportive housing programs, to funders to continue funding, to their donors. We have to be consistently evaluating our programs and measuring them well. Otherwise, we can't make adjustments. One, if we're seeing high eviction rates, for example, or we can't truly tell the story of our success when we are keeping folks housed. Most of us know we're doing good work. We see it, we're on the ground, we see it with our own eyes, but having consistent data and evaluation practices helps us tell the story to a wider audience. So especially under this heightened scrutiny on permanent housing programs across the nation, I think by integrating data-driven methodologies, stakeholders and housing providers can really ensure the alignment of investments with Nevada's priorities. So delivering measurable outcomes and measuring fiscal efficiency. And you can see how those stories are told, how the data gets integrated into success stories in the final section here, the testimonials and success stories. So for instance, to bring up Ohio again, wait, where'd it go? Oh, Ohio's collaborative programs connecting individuals to reentering society from incarceration to supportive housing have resulted in recidivism rates of under 9%, far lower than traditional approaches, proving the cost effectiveness of efficacy of housing-based intervention. So this is just one piece of data that this housing program measured. They specifically, the goal of Returning Home Ohio was to reduce recidivism rates by the Department of Corrections in Ohio because they know that housing is a solution. They saw the data. They initiated design of this program. They measured the success and it worked. You can also see here in Montana, Montana demonstrated a clear impact on community health outcomes because they measured a reduction in emergency department visits, increasing behavioral health appointments, and better overall health reported because they were measuring specifically health outcomes from their tenants as well as keeping people housed in the long term. Because we know the number one data point for supportive housing is that folks who historically have been cycling in and out of the system, sometimes for decades, have been shown to stay housed in supportive housing for 1 year or more. So measuring beyond just the housing tenancy and stability is really important. And that's also how we get more legislation and continue support for the program because we're going to show it works. So this is where you can see knowing who you're serving, what population you're serving, measuring both the core successes, measuring the folks in supportive housing are shown to stay housed. So it's both effective in ending homelessness, but also in these greater community benefits, is what you can learn about in this toolkit, and then how you can measure how long-term housing plus tenancy support services results in all these public economic and public health benefits, community benefits, and is a solution to ending homelessness for folks that are hardest to house. So I feel like I did just do a little brief summary because I got excited about all this data. But finally, in the summary section, we have the recap here. So if you're the type of person who skips to the end of the book, this is your section. Here you can capture the headlines here of the previous sections and then confidently share what you learned as if you read the entire article. And we can go through the bullet list together now. So supportive housing reduces public costs, decreases healthcare and spending, reduces the burden on law enforcement, high return on investment, improves stability outcomes, cost effective compared to shelters, mitigates the homelessness crisis, aligns funding with broader goals, strengthens local infrastructure. This is all that you learn if you read this toolkit, these bullet points right here. That's a lot. These are the essential elements. And that's 10. So you are now very well equipped to talk to your representatives, to talk to your business partners, your investors, your funders, new staff, anyone who's interested in being a part of the solution for ending homelessness and getting Nevada past this housing crisis. You have everything you need here to be a champion of supportive housing as a solution to end homelessness. But if that's not enough, you can just read more. Keep reading. So we have resources. We love homework at CSH. We're nerds like that. So we provided this whole section that's just homework for you. That's through our supportive housing funding matrix. So you can download all the funding resources that we mentioned in the funding section here. For capital funding, that's for development, operating, rental subsidies to make sure you operate long-term permanent housing for folks, and then coupling with the services, direct tenant services. And then if you're the type of person who likes to check people's work and make sure they're not making stuff up, here's all the studies and citations that go into here. So there's something for everyone in here. Local websites, national studies, academic studies, and some journalism, a whole list of citations and data sources for you to peruse so you can get a PhD in supportive housing if that's what you're into. So, all right, you guys made it. Who now feels like they know how to use this toolkit? Amanda, I can't see anyone else. So let me know in the chat. And who here feels like they learned at least one thing about supportive housing from this toolkit demonstration? Yay, Darnell. That's awesome. One person. My job here is done. Yay, that's my boss. She has to say that. Awesome. Well, that is all I have here for you two. Thank you so much. I'll turn it back over to Jocelyn in case you guys have questions. I know I am a fast talker. I've been given that feedback many times after public speaking. So if you have any questions, I'll put my information in the chat as well. You have Amanda and Maurice. They're going to be, this is a living document. If you have any feedback or you want to see something added, the data in here will have to be updated periodically. So please send Amanda and Maurice your feedback on this, and we'll work with them to keep things updated. And I'll turn it over to you, Jocelyn, see if maybe there's any questions.
Yeah, so we still have a few minutes left. So if anybody has any questions, you can throw those in the chat. Juawana, thank you so much for that thorough run through, that run of show of that beautiful toolkit. I love how you connected it to lawmakers and gave live examples of how they could integrate it with the work that they're already doing or they're aspiring to doing. Such great information and such a great presentation. Thank you. I did put Juana's email in the chat for those of you who want to reach out to her or have additional questions. I'm not seeing any in the chat yet, but we'll give it a few more minutes. We do have some time. Thank you, everyone. Everyone is just commenting on what a great presentation is. Can I save my contact info to receive updates, or will it be sent? Thank you, Amanda, for resharing Juana's. Are they able? So I know this is being recorded, so you'll be able to go back and look at the recording of the presentation. If you feel like you need a double dose, just to get it into your system. Go ahead, Amanda. I can see your.
Nope. I was just going to say, in response to Sean, this is actually a living, as Juawana said, a living document on our website. I will reshare the link in the chat, but if you just go to nvhousingcoalition.org, at the top of the page, you'll see resources, and the supportive housing toolkit will be on there, so you can access it anytime,
Yeah.
any day.
Yes. Dan David asked who would be the point of contact for Nevada Consulting. That would be Juawana. So you can go ahead and send her an email and she will happily get something on the calendar with you.
Yes, definitely. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much to the coalition for hosting
Yes.
us. It's so nice to be in community with you all. I love this work, as you can tell. I'm such a nerd about it.
I know I could not, well, for those of you who may not know, Juawana used to work at the Nevada Housing Coalition. I cannot think of a more perfect person to give a tour of this toolkit. So amazing job. As mentioned, we are recording this. We will send out a link to the recording so you can rewatch Juana's presentation and Joselyn's presentation as well about the overview of supportive housing. We will share the link to the toolkit. Next month, we are going to be hosting our lunch and learn on supportive housing, or not supportive housing, affordable housing development, which could also include supportive housing, but affordable housing development. So we will hear from a couple of our developers in Nevada. And for our members, we are going to also host policy forums in person in July 20th in Southern Nevada and July 23rd in Northern Nevada. So keep an eye on your emails. And again, reach out at any time to any of us for questions. Thank you, CSH. This was an awesome tour of our toolkit. We're very excited. And you all have a great rest of your afternoon.